Our next award is in the area of education, and this, the third award of the evening, will be presented to the National Director of the March of the Living, Eli Rubenstein. Eli is a very popular figure in this room, I know. That's a program that gets Jewish youth together each and every year in Poland, and they do the 5-kilometer march from Auschwitz to Birkenau, the extermination camp. That march is also supported by the March of Remembrance and Hope, which is for children of all faiths and young adults of all faiths. He is the leader of the congregation of Honoree. He is Veahavta's Passover Seder leader. He's a driving force in the organization's initiatives in Guyana and Zimbabwe. He's a great honoree tonight. Would you please recognize Eli Rubenstein?
When I spoke to Carell a few days ago from Veahavta, he asked me to tell a story tonight. I said, I'm not used to doing that, but I'll try to dig one up for the evening. So I'll save the story for the end. Before I begin my formal remarks, I would like to say how wonderful it is to see my good and dear friend Avram Rosenzweig with us here tonight. His smile lighting up the room. And if you'll forgive the pun, it's great to see Avram back in circulation. Avram, welcome back. Avram was on a health kick, and therefore we're auctioning off his dessert tonight after the meal. So, you know, about 12 years ago, I think, when Avram first started broaching the idea of Veahavta with a number of people, including myself, and I was a bit skeptical, but Avram went ahead anyways, and look at what an incredible organization he has built. Avram, through Veahavta, reminded us that to be a good Jew means to be a good human being. Veahavta struck a chord within the Jewish community, and has quite literally changed the landscape of Jewish communal responsibility. At the time of Veahavta's inception, there were literally thousands of young people who wanted to make a difference in the world, and they wanted to achieve this through their involvement in the Jewish community. And Veahavta gave them the way to do just that. Whenever I read about Veahavta's vans for the homeless, the missions they sent to Africa to fight AIDS, one of which I was privileged to accompany Dr. Michael Silverman with, who is here tonight. The work they do in Guyana, the aid they send to victims of hurricanes and other natural disasters. Whenever I read these stories, my heart swells with pride, and I'm proud to be a Jew. Why? Because I feel honored and privileged to be part of a people who focus so passionately on the needs of others and place this emphasis at the very center of their religious expression. As many of you know, I began my work in Holocaust education over 20 years ago. And while I'm honored to receive this award here tonight, there are many others who should be standing right here next to me. And so here are a few people I would like to thank. I want to thank my parents for raising me in a Jewish home with the values that I think about and try to incorporate in my life every day. I want to make specific reference to my sister and my mother, who are here tonight. My mother was a refugee from the Holocaust, and many of the members of her family perished in Hungary during World War II. But despite that, my mother always had an optimistic attitude, was always open to treating all people fairly, regardless of their background or their religion. And these are values that I hope to incorporate in my own life as I move forward. So I want to thank my mother for being such a positive example, and for continuing to be so, and for writing this portion of the speech. I'd also like to recognize the various organizations that I work for and with that have allowed me to develop and to refine the Holocaust education programs I'm involved in. As you've heard, I'm the religious leader of Congregation Habanim and have been so for the past 20 years, and I want to acknowledge the presence of my president, Samantha Goldman, who has been so supportive in so many ways and has ensured that Habanim has been a welcoming place for both many March of the Living and Veahavta programs. It was through Samantha's encouragement that the annual Passover Seder for the homeless, and just last year, the creative writing contest for the homeless have taken place at Habanim. I also want to recognize my many colleagues from the March of the Living and the March of Remembrance and Hope. There are too many to mention, but I'd like to make specific reference to Carla Wittes, the director of the Canadian Centre for Diversity, which coordinates the March of Remembrance and Hope and does such an outstanding job of spreading the message of tolerance and understanding to multi-faith university students across Canada. I also want to recognize the presence of my past national chair from the March of the Living, Anita Epstein. As many of you know, Anita is a hidden child, and she was saved by righteous Poles during the Holocaust. Anita's father's last words to her were, "Always remember who you are." And because of Anita's efforts, thousands of young Jewish people from all across Canada know who they are and are proud and committed to their own Jewish identity. I'd also like to pay special tribute to all the Holocaust survivors and the students who have taken part in the March of the Living and the March for Remembrance and Hope programs. These survivors, like Judy Cohen, who you heard previously, and Anita Epstein, and Max Eisen, our honoree last year, and so many others who have rebuilt their lives after the Shoah, raised families, contributed to their communities, and who so eloquently share their painful stories with others so that the hope of never again can one day become a reality. And I also want to commend the students who have found the courage and the dedication and the commitment to listen to the survivor stories, to become the bearers of their memories, to become, in Judy Cohen's words, the witnesses for the witnesses. Finally, I want to thank all of you for your involvement with Veahavta. And here's a little story I want to conclude with. A number of years ago, I became involved as a volunteer with the Guide Dog Center for the Blind in Israel. Now, as an aside, the dogs in Israel are all trained in Hebrew, which for me is an incredible expression of Zionism. Who would have thought dogs in Israel are being trained in Hebrew? And when I'm teaching some of my bar mitzvah students and I get a bit frustrated, I say to them, you know, there's dogs in Israel that speak Hebrew better than you. Doesn't always work. And in my last trip there, I picked up a whole bunch of dog commands, and I started teaching my dog some commands in Hebrew, and now my dog ignores me in 2 languages. Anyways, one of the stories that touched me deeply from the Guide Dog Center had to do with a very religious man who lost his vision and his wife during the same period of time. He went to the doctor, and the doctor suggested a guide dog, but initially he was reluctant, but finally he said he would try it. And he came back to the doctor a year later, and he said to the doctor, "This dog has changed my life. This dog has given me wings before which I couldn't do anything. I couldn't leave my own house. The dog even takes me to synagogue 3 times a day, and we've given the dog a place of honor right outside the sanctuary." They're not counting the dog in the minyan just yet, but who knows? But then he said something so touching and so beautiful. He said, "You know what, doctor? Sometimes my dog even makes me forget that I am blind. Sometimes the dog makes me forget that I am blind." And when I heard that story, I said to myself, what a privilege it is to be able to help someone to the point they can even forget their blindness. And that is what all of you are doing through Veahavta. You have given wings to those who have had theirs broken. You have given dignity to those who have been robbed of theirs. And you have given hope to so many where there was none before. May the work of this wonderful organization continue for many years to come. And may Veahavta continue its healing work in all corners of the world. It has been a great honor to be recognized by an organization as exceptional as Veahavta, and I will cherish this honor for many years to come. Thank you.